And here we are. We're live. Really, really weird stuff going on in the country. New York City, the financial capital of the world, descending into the control of one Comrade Mamdani. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We have a lot to say on that. Meanwhile, oh boy, Letitia. Oh, Letitia, he's not even going to be able to help you out here, honey. You are in a whole lot of trouble, and you're in a whole lot of trouble because it turns out after you promised not to use the $10 million to pay for your legal bills, it seems you are. I got all the goods on that, plus a big win for the DOJ. We're going to get into Letitia James. But I would say, in terms of Mamdani, lots of bad things are about to happen, possibly. Well, we know they will because he's a socialist, communist, whatever you want to call him. And but we have some backbone in that we have the President of the United States who's not going to allow the craziness, and I mean craziness, ladies and gentlemen, to happen. Remember, he's already told us this.
Said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mamdani.
Well, then we'll have to arrest him.
Let the fireworks begin, okay? He just said it. Well, you're going to set yourself up for Fed versus state. And I'm sorry, Comrade Mandani, guess what? The Feds win that one all day long because, no, you can't just tax someone because of the color of their skin. You can't. And you can't you could try. Everyone's going to leave. Everyone's going to leave. I promise you that. I don't know what to call him. I try to keep it clean for the kids. But anyway, he was saying a little stuff last night before we get to Letitia.
And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one.
Congratulations, Democrats. You lost your party to socialism. This fucking guy, Mamdani, won in about 4 minutes. You can take a look at the districts. The Bronx, this one's a fucking wrap. You lost your party to socialism because you pandered to the radicals on the left.
You freaking idiots, okay? AOC. Oh my gosh, she's out there gloating. Wait till we got a lot to talk about today. We certainly do. But I got to keep you abreast of some of the breaking news coming to us right now on Letitia James. Letitia, baby, the one who is in a whole lot of trouble because she seemed to be caught doing the exact same thing that she's accusing Donald Trump of doing. Well, when it comes to the mortgage thing, and then, of course, the civil rights violations, that's a big deal in Albany. You see, she's got 2 DOJ cases against her, one in Virginia, one in Albany, and she was trying to get both of them thrown out. In the case of Albany, they're like, we're going to move forward here because, you've been indicted and that indictment, we're going to keep moving forward with. So what does she do? She uses money from New York taxpayers to pay her legal bills, even after telling us that she wouldn't. But, hey, she's Letitia. This was her outside the courthouse the other day. And boy, she's entitled. If I ever saw entitled, this is the definition of entitlement, ladies and gentlemen. And wait till you meet her nieces.
But this is not about me. This is about all of us. And about a justice system which has been weaponized.
Really?
A justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge.
What do you think you did?
This justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge.
We heard you the first time.
And a weapon against those individuals who simply did their job and who stood up for the rule of law.
Give me a break. Give me a break.
We stand with you.
She's got her 5 fans out there standing with her. Well, I'll tell you who's not standing with her. Go over here, take a look at what just came out of the Times-Union today. The response, they're talking about Letitia's response here. She wanted to get this whole case thrown out. You see, they're accusing her of going after Donald Trump and his son's liberties, their basic civil liberties in the state of New York by so maliciously prosecuting him. Don't forget, she campaigned on this entire thing, all right? Don't forget. She's literally in trouble now for exactly the things that she did. So the response was filed after private attorneys retained by James, private attorneys, okay, She's not using any state attorneys here. No, she's Letitia James, and she's got to have the big ones. You know, Abby Lowell, who charges like thousands of dollars an hour and has $1 million retainer. He works for Hunter Biden. She's got to get the big guns in there. But being paid with state taxpayer dollars. Boom, bingo. Okay, state taxpayer dollars. You see, Kathy Hochul put a little aside for her $10 million that she put aside for her. And then for some reason, when it seemed politically unpopular and it was leaked to the press and the Republicans are like, what are you doing? And all of a sudden, even the press was like deserting her, saying, what are you doing? And voters, especially those outside of New York City, are like, what are you doing? Guess what? She decided to say, no, I'm not going to take that. And then she was like begging, hat in hand, going out to legal funds saying, hey, can you help? Can you help? Can you help? And apparently, I don't know if nobody wanted to help or if she didn't get enough money, but she wound up then going back and using taxpayer dollars. So that's not cool. All right, so these motions that she was filing, seeking to block a couple of subpoenas in the judge in the Southern District of New York case after judges in the state Northern District recused themselves from the matter. She was going to the Southern District, and she filed all this paperwork, I guess, using taxpayer dollars. Like, I mean, I'm just going to say it. I have to be careful, right? But it kind of feels like stealing. I mean, you get your own legal problems and you turn to the taxpayers to pay for it after these are problems of your own making. At least Stefanik's been all over this. Here she is writing, Tish James's actions embody the corruption among New York elected Democrats led by Kathy Hochul. By the way, Kathy Hochul, you're in for a run for your money because Elise Stefanik, the representative from New York, she's going to beat you. We've already seen the polls and she's ahead of you, Kathy Hochul. Well, I recently exposed how Governor Kathy Hochul and Albany Democrats secretly inserted language into the state budget to cover James's legal expenses with taxpayer money. That's what I'm talking about. And then she said she wouldn't do it, but I guess she did. This abuse of power is an insult to New Yorkers already struggling with high taxes. You better believe it. And by the way, those taxes are going up, certainly in New York City, thanks to Comrade Mandani. The investigation into Letitia James is a vital step towards justice. I will continue to fight to expose New York corruption, protect constitutional rights, and hold these failed Democrat leaders in New York accountable. My gosh. I mean, this is gross stuff. This was the headline in the New York Post, actually, back in October, how indicted New York attorney generals Letitia James is going to pay for her legal defense, which could cost up to $10 million. And so at the time, they were saying that, yeah, this money had been set aside, but she wasn't going to use it. She wasn't going to tap into the $10 million Kathy put aside for her legal fund. And now we're learning, according to the, and I give them credit, this is a local paper up in Albany, the Albany Times, that in fact, she's paying for her attorneys, her private attorneys, with state taxpayer dollars. So, Tishy baby, I think you're kind of in for it. I think that this is going to be a problem, and we're going to see more and more of this problem come forward. And I actually think you're going to wind up in a political problem as a result. The Hill had an interesting op-ed just yesterday saying that her chances of winning are like really slim, really bad. Like, again, New York City is different. And sure, she came out and supported Mamdani because she hates Cuomo, because Cuomo hates her, and that's a whole other thing we don't need to get into today. But she came out and supported Mamdani, but that's not going to matter when it comes to the rest of New York. I told you, my husband's from the Buffalo area, right outside of Buffalo, Lockport, New York, and we're talking good, solid people there, and I see a lot of Trump signs. I really do, and I don't think they're big fans of Letitia James and the fact that she's telling local police officers there not to cooperate. That was a story in the news about 6 months ago with any of the ICE officers. This is going to become a bigger and bigger issue. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to go back to Mike Davis, who said it so eloquently. I had to take out a swear word or two, but he has his own panache. Here he is with my friend Benny. Watch.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights, and I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
Okay, but she did. She violated his constitutional rights, and that's what has gone to the court there. This is what's in the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York. Okay, so she's got 2 cases against her, and she's not supposed to use the money from the taxpayers. She promised she wouldn't, and yet that's exactly what she's doing, of course, according to the legal bills that we saw this week out of New York. So meanwhile, you get the DOJ getting another win here in the mortgage fraud case. So Lindsey is getting a little bit of a win. You know, the lawyers for Letitia James, well, that would be Abby Lowell, were complaining that Lindsey was talking to the press and they didn't like that. And then they wanted her to keep a log of everything that she said and everything that she was interacting with. And they wanted to see a copy of that diary. And basically the judge said, yeah, go pound sand. Okay, that's not happening. So that is good news, again, for the DOJ, for Lindsey Halligan, and of course for Donald Trump, because this woman, and frankly the country, because she needs to pay a price. Moving back here to New York, the DOJ is saying that there is ample evidence politics motivated Letitia James's case against Donald Trump. You know that. Here's the Northern District of New York Attorney John Sarcone. His office is contending that it's the grand jury investigation of State Attorney General Letitia James, that it's valid and based on ample evidence of politically motivated selective prosecutions of Donald Trump. I mean, of course it was. How many times have I played you? I won't do it again today, I promise. I know everybody gets annoyed because we're all sick of seeing it, but sometimes it's entertaining. I won't do it today because we have a lot to get to. But she's like, too male, too pale, too stale. And what did she say? I promise every day I'm going to go into the office, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go after Trump. That's all I'm going to do. That's all she cared about doing. And that is exactly what she did. She sued him over 100 times. She tried to bankrupt the guy. And here we are now. Guess what? He's back in charge. He's now the president of the United States. And Letitia is struggling. And you know how we know she's struggling? There have been some polls that suggest she really is struggling. And again, there's my anecdotal evidence because I travel to Western New York and I see what the rest of the place is like outside of Manhattan, where I have no intention of going in the near future. I got to tell you, I lived many years. I went to Columbia. I lived with my husband for years. My kids were all born in New York. And in 2018, we just decided, really wasn't the best place for kids. Or for us, for that matter. And we decided to move outside the city. And I got to tell you, every single day I pinch myself and I'm like, this is so great. How did I ever live in the city that long? But I can tell you right now, and I was thinking last night, boy, am I glad that I sold my apartment back in 2018. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, what a disaster the place has become. I mean, Rudy Giuliani, he really improved it. It turned into like Disney World, back when Disney World was actually nice. And then you had Mayor Bloomberg, who I actually used to work for at Bloomberg Television 2 times. I started my career there and I came back and was a main anchor and ran all their political coverage. Yeah, imagine me. That was actually kind of funny. They were like, Trish, will you put a Democrat on, please? I'm like, they don't want to come on with me. What can I say? I don't know. Anyway, Mike Bloomberg, he did a decent job. All right. And then you get Comrade de Blasio over there, who didn't know how to pick up the trash or plow the streets in a snowstorm. And then the poor guy, Eric, I mean, Eric Adams, I think he meant well, but he was kind of a disaster. And by the way, by then, the train had left the station. In other words, the crazy leftists had taken over, and all of a sudden you get this guy who just graduated from Bowdoin College a few years ago, whose dad is a Columbia University, frankly, kind of in my estimation, total nut job, because he's one of these colonialist, anti-colonialist, oh gosh, we got to blame white people for everything, and you need reparations in the whole 9 yards. That's how this guy was raised, and now here he is, the mayor-elect of New York City. But going back to the way the rest of the state feels, if you look at some of these poll numbers for one Letitia James, what you actually see is that she's not doing that well. I mean, they write in the City Journal, consider James and Hochul's electoral records. While James received over 60% of the vote in 2018, that was a while ago, in 2022, she only got 54.6%, and that was far less impressive, barely 1 percentage point better than Hochul's win over Congressman Lee Zeldin, and it was the worst performance by a winning Democrat gubernatorial candidate in 40 years. So, in other words, Hochul's doing lousy. We saw a new poll saying that Yeah, at least Stefanik's going to beat her. And then this one, and this is from a few months ago. I mean, these numbers have gone down most definitely since then. You can see that Attorney General Letitia James is really struggling because if you look at her favorability ratings, check that one out. Oh my gosh, she's doing worse than Chuck Schumer. I mean, I thought that was hard to do, right? Because poor Chucky, babe, he's really struggling. He's got AOC nipping at his heels like you've never seen. He's even afraid to say who he voted for. He wouldn't say who he voted for in all seriousness in this election. So Chuck Schumer, 46 favorable, 41% unfavorable. Attorney General Letitia James, 40% favorable, 33% unfavorable, and then 27% don't know. And this was, like I said, before this whole ordeal. This is before she was indicted. This is before it was found out that she was out there, what do you know, paying for her legal bills with your, if you live in New York, taxpayer dollars. There's something fundamentally wrong with that now, is there not? So her career, if you ask me, is basically over. On top of which, if you look at basically these issues that are so important to voters outside of New York City, she's at odds with all of them. 79% of New Yorkers, they back deporting immigrants convicted of a crime. I mean, that really shouldn't be that. You know, I'm surprised it's not like 99.99%. I mean, if you've been convicted of a crime, you really think somebody ought to be staying here? I'm curious about the the ones that think that's okay. But anyway, you're at 79%. 39% back deporting immigrants with no criminal record. Okay, that's actually a pretty big number. And then you got 59% who do not want taxpayers paying for migrants' medical care. What do you think this whole shutdown's about? $1.5 trillion that they want to give to migrants medical care. Only 26% are in favor. 48% support federal efforts to deport all illegal migrants. 31% oppose. This is the Siena College poll. I'm telling you, she is not on the right side of these issues. Now, is she? She's on the wrong side of everything. So when you go outside of New York City, she's going to have some really, really big problems. So she's getting these legal setbacks one after another, with the latest today being out of Albany, New York. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Albany contends its grand jury investigation of State Attorney General Letitia James is indeed valid. She was trying to get out. She won. This is, again, according to the Times Union. Okay, I got to gulp my water. I call it pulling a Marco Rubio. When you need to gulp your water on set. But, you know, we don't have any commercials over here in podcast land. So I have to take it when I can get it. Attorney General Letitia James is valid and based on whether she may have violated federal laws by selectively pursuing lawsuits against the National Rifle Association as well as President Donald J. Trump for political motives. I mean, I don't think that this is something that's even contestable. She was so out there and obvious about it. What did she say? Like, she knew nothing about the case and she's on the campaign trail promising to go after him. That's all she wanted to do. So she was out there trying to squash these two subpoenas that were seeking some records into the investigation she was doing in her office. And she doesn't want this whole indictment coming out of the state of New York, right? She's already facing one in Virginia. And basically what was decided here is that there's enough evidence to move forward. So Attorney Richard Bellis, he's the assistant U.S. attorney, he was actually saying that the subpoenas were issued by a validly impaneled grand jury. They get a grand jury investigation looking at all of this, and he cited prior court filings of a grand jury investigative powers as being really expansive. And they are. They are, right? What's the saying? You can indict a ham sandwich? Like, anybody can get indicted? Like, in other words, this is the stage before that. So by all means, they have the right to ask for this. And the idea that she's actually trying to threaten them and say, you can't, and that her lawyers are saying that should actually trouble everyone. So the good news is she's not getting anywhere on it. And they have made it very clear in their response that they're going to continue pursuing all of this. So Letitia James, just stop running up the bills, if you would, because I think people are getting kind of tired of these legal bills. I do want to point out that one thing that she said in response was that the words of the Attorney General herself established beyond a reasonable doubt that this action was commenced not to vindicate the public interest, but out of a partisan political motive. Okay, that was the lawyers for Trump on behalf of the state. That's the U.S. Attorney's Office. They're saying this, but I found her response really peculiar, and I actually put this in green. See my little scribble? I do all that. I get my highlighter out, and then I put it on the screen for you because the things that I really think are important, I want you to know. This is what she said in response to the U.S. Attorney's Office saying, hey, we've got all of this information that really want to know more about. We've got all these news conferences, all these social media statements. I mean, you were pretty incendiary out there. So don't you think we ought to be able to get more information on this stuff? And she said, direct quote, no one is above the law, including this illegitimate president. And so I look forward to going into the Office of Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and going home. So just remember that. And when they try and tell you, or she tries to tell you that this is just a political vendetta all designed to take her down because she tried to bankrupt him, go back to that. No one is above the law, including this, quote, illegitimate president. Okay, she's quoting Jimmy Carter there. And we know what that was all about. Hey, we got Comey's handwritten notes thanks to Lindsey. She just revealed that Exhibit 13. We'll get to that later on. I'll tell you guys, this is pretty damn bad what they did. And then, of course, it's all coming back to haunt her. When powerful people cheat to get better loans, she said it comes at the expense of honest and hardworking people. Everyday Americans cannot lie to a bank to get a mortgage to buy a home. And if they did, the government would throw the book at them. There simply cannot be different rules for different peoples. Really, Letitia? Really? So she thought that Donald Trump was cheating because he was, in her belief, overestimating the value of one Mar-a-Lago. Like she's the one to decide the value of Mar-a-Lago? I think, when you go out there and you decide to take a loan on a second home, and you say it's your second home, and then separately you're listing it as a rental income property because you're letting your niece live there, and apparently it's a rental enough. She's got the electricity bill in her name, and you're listing it, in your financial disclosures as an income property, and yet you get out a loan to which you save something like $19,000, according to the New York Post, over the extent of the loan. Like, I actually think that that's kind of bad. I actually think that those words are coming back to hurt you and haunt you. When powerful people cheat to get better loans, it comes at the expense of honest and hardworking people. I mean, you saved yourself a cool 19 grand? Come on. Oh, Tishy. I mean, and I'm sorry, but the comrade's not going to be able to help you out here because you get your own political troubles. You're the one using taxpayer dollars to pay for your legal bills when you promised you wouldn't. And now you got one bad apple in the big apple. Oh my gosh. Like I told you guys in the chat, I was like, I really didn't sleep that well last night. I actually went to bed really early. I go to bed kind of early because my kids get up really early for school and I need to be there. And so I went to bed. I was like out by 9 o'clock. And, we had local elections going on and everything, school board stuff. And so I went to bed before we knew all the information. At some point, I woke up at like 2 a.m. and I checked my phone, bad thing to do. And whoa, I'm like, okay, well, we knew Mamdani was going to win, but it was just, kind of disheartening to see. And of course, I think in some ways, the positive sort of silver lining in this is that sometimes societies need to go through this, right? Like you kind of need to experience hell before you really know how good heaven is. So you kind of need to see how bad it can really get in New York City. And it's going to get bad. It's going to get bad from an economic standpoint, from a security standpoint, and even from just a political standpoint in the tension that I think he's going to bring. I mean, he's already out there saying we can't let anybody like Donald Trump ever win again. What are you going to do? Oh, we're going to shut down the ways that helped him win. So what does that mean? Oh, am I not allowed to talk? Reminder, subscribe, share, like, and hit the Spotify one too. We need to diversify, okay? Listen to me. We need to be able to stay in contact because I hear things like that and I'm like, Mamdani, what exactly do you mean by that? Are you going to take away our First Amendment? Because, there's a lot of evidence that Biden did some pretty sketchy stuff when it came to the First Amendment. I will say this, Donald Trump, for all they want to complain about him, if you were living in a fascist society that didn't allow any dissonance, then you wouldn't hear any. Okay, but you hear a lot. Why? Because he doesn't clamp down on that stuff. And by the way, when he has beef with someone, he actually just says it. He comes right out and says it. I mean, Biden would like dance around it, and Barack Obama had his spies working behind the scenes. Just ask James Rosen or my friend Cheryl Atkinson, whom I worked with at CBS. I mean, all kinds of weird things going on. But now I'm telling you, Mandani's on notice because he's saying he's not going to cooperate with the feds in any way, shape, or form. If you're not going to cooperate, I hate to break it to you, buddy, but there's this little thing called the Constitution. I know you're not that smart because you couldn't even get into my own alma mater, Columbia University, and your dad worked there. Yeah, not that smart. And what did he say? He was African? American? That all came out. The guy's a liar. Frankly, in my estimation, he's a complete scumbag. But, you had me at communist, basically. It's kind of hard to get beyond that. Anyway, here is Donald Trump saying, yep, you know what we're going to do? If he doesn't cooperate with the feds, if he stands in the way of the federal law, we're going to arrest him.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zohran Mamdani, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mamdani.
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron. If you look at the per capita, Florida gets 1/3 of what New York gets in terms of the numbers. Why don't you give us those numbers?
Yeah, well,
because that's what we should send him.
Yeah, well, sometimes people say Florida gets more because they count Social Security recipients, but that's not money to the state. Those are seniors that live here. If they moved to North Carolina, you could count it there. So it has no interaction with the state government. They get more in the city and state governments than we get.
Right, substantially. We're going to be watching that very carefully, and a lot of people are saying he's here illegally. We're going to look at everything, and ideally. He's going to turn out to be much less than a communist. But right now, he's a communist. That's not a socialist. I've always said, we will not have socialism in this country. In the speeches, I said, well, what? They skipped socialism. And you got a lot of them like that. And you see AOC, she's out there with her, bad IQ. She's out there ranting and raving about how wonderful he is. And look, so far he's winning. He still has a race to win, but so far he's winning, and he has an advantage as a Democrat in New York City. I was there a long time ago, and it was a long time since a Republican won the city. But you would think that a Republican would be able to win. Or you have a good independent running, Mayor Adams, who's a very good person. I helped him out a little bit. He had a problem, and he was unfairly hurt over this question. He made a statement to the effect that this is terrible. New York City can't have all these immigrants come in. And like he was indicted the following day. And I said, that was a phony indictment. And it was a phony indictment. That was a Biden indictment. I said, don't feel bad. I got indicted 5 times every time you opened your mouth. That was a bad group. That was a very dangerous group, I will tell you. These were not nice people. That was the only thing they could do. They had no policy. They had no skill. They had no anything. But they were very good at that. They were vicious, vicious, horrible people. Thank you very much.
He's making an interesting point here because we don't want to go back to those days, right? We just absolutely don't. And yet when you hear some of the things that Mamdani is saying, let me see if I can play it for you, because it really struck me as kind of dangerous rhetoric. We played it earlier in the show, but I want to show you this again, because he's sort of saying we can't ever let somebody like Donald Trump win again, so we'll take away all their opportunities to do so. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one.
So now they're not going to be able to communicate on social media? Is that the idea? You're just not going to be able to talk on social media at all? Because that's what happened before. as I recall, right, they just shut off all his accounts and anybody who supported him. And then the next thing you know, we're in Arctic frost. And there's a giant investigation where they compile 30 million phone records of over 400 people, including it was over 100 organizations, including my friend Charlie Kirk's organization, the late Charlie Kirk. I mean, wow, right? 8 sitting U.S. senators, a representative from Congress. It's like they wanted to choke it off. And this is what Mamdani is talking about. That's not good. So, Donald Trump's right to say, hey, we mean business. And if you are in opposition of the federal law, we will take that seriously. I mean, if you're a communist and you think that you can just tax somebody or take something from them because you don't like the color of their skin. I mean, that's one of his quotes, right? He's going to go and tax white neighborhoods. I'm like, I'm sorry, we have a constitution. Like, you can't actually do that. That would be actually a form of racism, okay? Like, you can't actually just say, we're going to go target that neighborhood because of the color of their skin. That's not going to fly. Meanwhile, you can't say, I'm not going to cooperate with the feds at all. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, you could say, I'm not going to cooperate, but you can't impede and you can't get in the way. And that's kind of what he's talking about. If you listen to some of his speech last night, he was like, we are not, we are a city of immigrants and we're going to have all the immigrants and And he made it clear that he was not going to cooperate with Trump in any way, shape, or form. And it's not just Trump, it's the feds here. Look, it's ICE, it's Congress. It's Congress. It's like they don't understand anything. Bunch of know-nothings. Anyway, you get Stephen Miller, who knows a lot and spent 4 years on the sidelines studying the law here, talking about this issue as it relates to California, but it also relates to New York and it relates to Illinois. I want him to explain it. Watch.
This was not a loophole. The Biden administration, Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, devised a scheme to fly illegal aliens into the country and then to escort them en masse across the border by the millions and to give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting booth. This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections. This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see, Sean, when you have California, a sanctuary state, that is refusing to turn over even illegal alien criminals to ICE. So these are illegal aliens in California who have been arrested by California police, by California law enforcement for serious crimes. They are refusing to hand these criminal illegal aliens over to ICE. Instead, they're freeing them back into the cities to offend and offend again. By any definition, what California is doing is criminal. It is a violation of our laws. It is one of the most heinous things that I have seen.
Yeah. Okay, so it's going on in California. It's going on in Chicago. And now it'll be going on in New York. So Mamdani said all these really nasty things about Donald Trump last night. It's like his whole reason for being was just to be anti-Trump. And I got a kick out of it. The president responded with, and so it begins. And so it begins, okay? Like it's devastating that we have to waste time doing this. Like, why do we have to fight? Hey, Mamdani, you need a safer city. So if I were you, I'd welcome the National Guard in there. I'd welcome the help from the federal government. I'd take a page out of the D.C. mayor's handbook. She's no fool. She's like, hey, you want to help? I'll take it. Thank you very much. And he doesn't do it, right? Now, this guy, I mean, he is everything that the Democrats should not want right now, because he's going to take them down a very, very dangerous path. I'm sorry, you want to be a socialist? Go live in Venezuela. Thank you very much. We don't need you here. You talk to anybody. I was tweeting this morning about like any of my friends that have lived in the former USSR. Like, they're so grateful for America. This is the dream come true, right? You go sit and talk to them about what life was like. I mean, one of my friends, she's from Romania, And you go to her house, and every time you go to her house, I mean, like, the food is just incredible. It's like everywhere. It's like, there's so much food, and she can't feed you enough. And she's like, I'm sorry. Like, the reality is, I grew up in the former Soviet Union where, like, you didn't have it. Like, you couldn't get it. And so they tend to overcompensate and have, like, a massive buffet, which I always love. And she's very generous. But I'm like, wow, this is a lot of food. It's a lot of food. But, you know, those things stay with you. Do we really want to go back to the federal government being in charge of our grocery stores? I don't think so. Thank you very much. The Democrats, you screwed up. You screwed up royally. Basically, you let Donald Trump take the entire mantle from you. You let him take over for the working class. You wanted to be the 2%, the 1%, and a bunch of academics that had some idea of a utopia that they could live in that doesn't really exist. Again, it's been tried all over the world, over and over and over again. One of you guys in the chat, I'm going to go back to the chat in a second because you were saying like in early New England. And I was an early American history major, but I wasn't familiar with that story. So I want to look that up. In early New England, somebody tried it. Didn't work out. It never works out. It sounds great, but you know what? Human beings are human beings, and we have self-interest. So I'm sorry. You know, capitalism may not be perfect, but I'll tell you, it's lifting more people out of poverty than any other system in the world. I want you to hear this guy. He was great. He's like, Dems, you fools, you stupid fools. You sure lost your party.
Congratulations, Democrats. You lost your party to socialism. This guy, Mamdani, won in about 4 minutes. You can take a look at the districts. The Bronx, this one's rap. Cuomo was awful. That's neither here nor there. That guy sucked. You lost your party to socialism because you pandered to the radicals on the left. And you've created this cataclysm of people, especially the young generation, that think they're going to get something for fucking free. They're about to be taken for fucking ride. Now you have no stars. Nothing. People like Mandani, they're going to be weaseling their way all the way to upcoming general elections. So there is no more Democratic Party of old. JFK, you're never going to see that again. They're going to take over, and you're going to get this lunatic shit that you're about to see in New York City. So hold on. I've been talking about the policies and the fairy tale. Yeah, I know. Mamdani, he's going to bring back Miss Lizzie's magic school bus. We know. Just wait. You lost your fucking party because you guys, you're playing hopscotch back and forth over the line. You don't even know what you are anymore. But they know.
Man or woman. It's true. They don't know what they are anymore. For goodness sakes, Chuck Schumer, who's supposed to be, you know, carrying the mantle there for the party, he couldn't even admit who he was going to vote for. Do I have? Oh, I do. I have this. I want to show you. Okay, so Chuck Schumer yesterday, they were like, Mamdani or Cuomo? And he wouldn't say.
Today is election day in New York City. Did you vote for Mandani or Cuomo?
Look, I voted, and I look forward to working with the next mayor to help New York City.
I don't know what to do. We have a socialist now in charge, communist. And we don't want him, and we wanted Cuomo. But, you know, we're kind of screwed because we kind of screwed up all around. I mean, it's just this darn Donald Trump, this TDS stuff really got to us. It like really infected us. And now we can't see the forest for the trees. We can't understand that, oh, maybe there aren't 250 genders like some have decided to try and spin. Yeah, that would be the BBC. I mean, it's kind of tragic. But now you've got Mamdani out there, and you've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who cannot speak Espanol. Yo puedo. I speak Spanish a lot better than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ever dreamed. The Irish girl speaks it. She can't, but she's out there gloating, saying that this is the new version of the party. I guess we should all be happy because you know what? It's not going to fly on a national level. It works in New York City, in the microcosm of the woke mindset, the woke mind virus of New York City. It's not working anywhere else.
What I think is so impressive about what Zohran Mamdani accomplished tonight, as well as...
I forgot to warn you about her voice. Forgive me for that. Just turn the volume down if needed. It's a little tinny.
The entire movement of New Yorkers that came out to vote for him is that he had to not just defeat a Republican, he had to defeat a Republican and the old guard of the Democratic Party at the same time. he was fighting a war on two fronts and not just one. And he still won resoundingly. And I think the message that that sends is that the Democratic Party cannot last much longer by denying the future, by trying to undercut our young, by trying to undercut a next generation of diverse and upcoming Democrats that have the parties, the actual party, our actual electorate and voters support.
Okay. So she thinks she's in charge now. Well, I got news for her. You know, like socialism never works, ever works, because, you know, at some point, as Margaret Thatcher so famously said, you run out of other people's money. And communism is just an exaggerated, really tyrannical version of all of that. Some of you guys have noticed I have Atlas Shrugged in the book stand behind me. It kind of poetic to have right there on a day like today. Anyway, Mamdani was already on MSNBC saying, no, we're not going to give away free groceries. I guess there was some plan for free groceries. Now he just wants moderated grocery prices because he's going to control the grocery prices. Oh, good luck with that. John Catsimatidis, he runs all the grocery stores, Gristades in New York. He's like, I'm out here, baby. No, we're not going to be running grocery stores in New York City where Mamdani is going to tell us what we can set for prices, where they're going to, no. Like, do you want the government running your grocery stores? Think about that for 2 seconds. Boy, it's like the USSR. I mean, if you finally escape from New York City, you'll be like my friend from Romania with the giant spread because you're like, thank God I can actually buy food. This is amazing. No, I don't want Mamdani running the grocery stores. That would, well, anyway, listen to him. He's got all kinds of grand ideas about how he's going to pay for everything.
Question affordability in this city, living here is top of everyone's mind. It has gotten obscenely expensive to live here, to do anything here. So you're proposing free grocery stores, free buses, $30 minimum wage, all of which sounds incredible.
Cheaper groceries, not free groceries.
Excuse me, cheaper groceries. But what people want to know is, great, I would love all those things. Yeah, how do you pay for it? Who's going to end up footing the bill for those programs?
So I'll answer that question by first explaining some of the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has received.
Okay, that has nothing to do with anything. But he wants to make sure that you know that Trump is endorsing Andrew Cuomo because, you know, that he figures that helps his cause because they get severe TDS, woke mind virus going on in New York City.
One of the most expensive endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has ever gotten because it cost him and the state of New York $959 million in tax breaks that he gave Elon Musk years ago when he was the governor of this state.
Incidentally, don't forget, it was AOC who told Amazon, we don't want you, even though you got tons of six-figure jobs that you're going to be bringing in, like 100,000 of these six-figure jobs. She didn't want it, right? Because she's a socialist communist, just like this guy.
It's actually more money than it would cost to make every bus free in New York City. So I've said clearly that I believe we should tax the top 1% an additional 2%, that's New Yorkers making $1 million or more a year, and have the most profitable corporations pay the same tax rate they do at the top tier in New Jersey, what they would actually pay here in New York. These things together would pay for the entirety of our economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city. Because as you've said, the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has got, and this morning he started it by going on Fox and Friends, we're talking about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Stephen Miller. These are the architects in many ways of the crisis of authoritarianism that New Yorkers are facing. And Andrew Cuomo is so unwilling to tax Donald Trump's billionaire donors because he knows those are the same ones whose checks that he's busy cashing trying to get back to City Hall.
So,
does this guy ever think, I realize he didn't get into Columbia University despite the fact that his dad worked there, despite the fact that he checked himself off as African American because, you know, they have the place in Africa. I realize he tried everything. He couldn't get into his dad's university. So he's probably not that bright, but does he not realize, like, what happens? You see, when you tax people, just ask Hollande over in France. Like, he figured that one out pretty quick, right? You keep taxing people and you keep taxing businesses, and what do? They leave. They leave because they can go somewhere else and run their business elsewhere. They don't need to be in New York. I mean, heck, guys, you look at Wall Street right now. I've told you before, the Texas Stock Exchange, woo, right? That thing has legs. And they're using all kinds of cool technology and, blockchain technology. And I wouldn't be surprised if I don't like meme sticker type thing. I call them stickers, cryptos that are like traded but those meme coins are traded on blockchains. And what's interesting to me is because if you fast forward 10 years, maybe even sooner, I wouldn't be surprised if you actually start to see stocks that are traded like those meme stickers on these blockchains. And guess what? Texas's stock exchange is doing it all. You're not going to need the New York Stock Exchange. You're not going to need Wall Street as we know it. We've already seen a ton of people in Wall Street migrate to Florida and to Texas. So this idiot thinks, I'm just going to go and tax everybody that's making $1 million. Well, already, I was looking at the numbers today. If you think about all the people that have left New York City since COVID, if you go back pre-COVID, you had something like 55,000 people in the city making $1 million. And now today there's like 33,000 people making that. So like they've left, okay? That's why real estate prices are going up in Texas and in Florida. And that's why they're not going up in the city of New York. And believe me, right now they're really not going up because Mamdani is going to tax everybody and the companies themselves. He wants to raise corporate taxes to 11.5% to match New Jersey. Well, I got news for you. New Jersey's land is cheaper. Corporations have an easier time building in New Jersey than they do in New York. This is not going to work. It is going to be like, it's so bad. I can see the handwriting on the wall. Sometimes it's tough. It's tough having this kind of insight.
Let's dig into that because you're talking about a rent freeze, you're talking about free buses, you're talking about free childcare. Can you do that without raising taxes?
No.
I think you can do that, and I think you have to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers who make...
Class warfare at its best. This dude that's got like his fancy schmancy abode, the big palace of land over there in Africa, courtesy of his parents. I guess his mom was like a Disney producer. Oh yeah, he used to be like a Disney kid like actor. He should go back to acting. He can like speak in all these different like accents and stuff. And I think he used to rap at some point. Anyway, he'd be better at that. Anyway, we'll go on.
More than $1 million a year. And you do that by raising taxes by them 2%. And then you also increase the corporate tax of New York State to match that of New Jersey. So that takes us from about 7.25 to about 11.5%, which is what we see in New Jersey.
They're gonna leave. You think that JP Morgan wants to be there when they could be down in sunny Florida where they're gonna have zero tax? I'm sorry. They're out of there, okay?
Jersey. These things together raise about $9 billion, which more than pays for our economic agenda and also starts to Trump-proof our state.
But are you worried that could drive a lot of job creators out of New York?
So what I've heard from a number of...
Thank you, George. Thank you. For once, George Stephanopoulos saying the obvious question. Listen.
Of business leaders is that the affordability crisis is also affecting their ability to attract and retain talent. The city's inability to provide childcare means that businesses often have to provide stipends for that childcare. Right now, the absence of universal childcare means that a family will pay around $22,500 a year, which is more money than many of them would spend if they sent that same kid to college 18 years later. And it is time for city government to actually step up to the responsibility that it has.
Not just the city government. That kind of a tax increase is going to require the state as well, including the governor, Kathy Hochul. Is she on board?
You know, I'm proud to have Governor Kathy Hochul's endorsement and the endorsement of our agenda, specifically universal child care. And I've said time and again, I think these are the two most direct and straightforward ways to raise this revenue. If there are other ways to raise this funds, the most important thing is that we actually fund this agenda.
Okay. Kathy's really not on board. I mean, maybe she was on board for this like little mayoral thing, but just to be super duper clear, she came out the other day and she said, no, we're not going to raise taxes. We're not going to raise taxes. Why? But she knows that that is political suicide because again, in any place other than New York City, you go out into the rest of New York State and it's a big place. You're not going to be able to get any of that accomplished. By the way, like it's bad enough in New York. Take a look at these numbers. I mean, I couldn't believe it. When I left New York, I was like, woo, I'm going to save my 4% on that municipal tax. I can't even send my kids to public school in New York City. I have to be worried about whether or not they're going to pick up the garbage. I have to be worried about whether or not the police are going to show up. Once we had like a little fire thing in the apartment, good luck getting the fire department. Nothing against those guys, but like, forget about it, right? Like I burned something on my stove in my little suburban town and boom, the fire department's like at the door. Totally different ballgame, okay? You get nothing for your tax dollars in New York City. Zip, zero, nada, because it's all going to the overhead that has to pay for all these bloated idiots in the bureaucracy that is New York City government. So your top tax rate right now is 14.776%. He wants to increase that by 2 percentage points. So now you're going to be looking at, well, nearly 17%. I mean, they're already the highest in the world. I mean, in the country. They're higher than California, believe it or not. So now you get up to 17%. Do you really think that anybody's going to stay there? Like, I'm sorry, New York, it's just not what it used to be. You're not safe. You can't take the subway, for goodness sakes. And you know what? I would much rather go see my plays and operas and anything else elsewhere. Better restaurants elsewhere. And I don't have to worry about basic safety that you have to worry about in New York City. What am I going to do? Pay, 17% tax to you, buddy, so you can do what? So you can redistribute my wealth that I'm growing. So you can have your free, moderated food programs so that you can have your free buses and you can have your free childcare. That is not going to fly. Like, it's just ask Hollande. Just ask Hollande. Anybody who can will get out. All of the corporations will leave. And New York City will be a desolate, bad place filled with people that can't take care of themselves, that are looking for the handouts from AOC and Mamdani. Please, please, please. And they say, let them eat cake, let them eat cake, let them eat cake. Just make sure you vote for me again. And maybe you'll get an increase of 2% next year. It is disgusting. It really is. And I'm sad for New York that it's come to this, because I lived most of my adult life there. I went to school there and I worked for many, many years there. I mean, decades, right? Like, I've lived all over the city. I mean, we used to move like every couple of years. I don't know how we did that. We're less mobile these days. You know, kids do that to you. But it was home. And I'm devastated to see what it's becoming. It is really, really bad. But here's the good news. Here's the good news, okay? So if Mamdani says, well, I'm going to tax the white neighborhood, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to confiscate their property because he is a communist, and don't forget, this is what they want to do. You do have this little thing called the Constitution, and we do have a president with some backbone. He made it very clear. He's not going to allow for any of that to happen.
In his nomination speech, said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mamdani?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron.
Okay, so he's talking about Florida there. But here's the deal. You don't have to send him the money. And he's right. If you're going to impede law enforcement, or if you're going to do something that's illegal, then hey, guess what? You're going to be in a lot of trouble. Okay, so it is setting up this sort of state versus federal conflict that for some reason the left is just itching to get into. But on the plus side, there might be an opportunity, because this guy wants a fight, to actually clean up New York and get the federal government more involved, because they're going to have to be more involved. I mean, of course, if there's anybody left at all, because I'll tell you, Florida is making a pitch, and I kind of like it. Ron DeSantis on Fox and Friends this morning basically saying, come one, come all, come right down to Florida, because we have zero income taxes, and we're looking at 0 property taxes. I mean, this is amazing. This is amazing. And, you know, he says something really important here, that he doesn't think you should rent your property from the government. I kind of liked that. I really liked that, actually, because, you know, it's not fair. You buy a piece of property, you build a home on it, and you never know what your taxes are going to be. The government can decide to, you know, gouge you if they want. And so he said there's something fundamentally wrong with that. Listen to this and just think about all the New Yorkers heading to Florida. It's happening, baby.
So we got to put it on the ballot, and the voters have to approve it. It's a constitutional issue in Florida. It's not something the state derives revenue for. It's a local issue. We're trying to focus on Florida homeowners and their primary resident, people that have Airbnbs or whatever, you know, that's separate. Yeah. But your personal home, you shouldn't rent it from the government. You should own it. And, you know, you're paying taxes for 50 years, but even for young families, it's become very difficult across this country to make ends meet. Wouldn't it be great if they were able to have home ownership without having the burden of property tax that. So that's coming to a ballot near you in November of 2026, and we need 60% of Florida voters to do it. And I think it's going to be very popular, but it's also something that's not an easy bar to reach when you have an election like that.
No, I get it. Because, people want to make sure that they have money to cover their schools, et cetera. Yeah, I like New Hampshire, where you have zero income tax. You have zero sales tax. That's what I'm talking about. Zero tax on investments or dividends. And when my husband and I owned a house there, we were always amazed because we get a check back. In all seriousness, we owned a home up in Moultonboro on Lake Winnipesaukee, and the taxes were whatever they were. They weren't crazy because I think it was mainly a summer home community, so they didn't have a lot of expenses during the winter. And we would get a check back. We'd pay our taxes, and they were like, we did a really good job with our budget this year. Here you go. And we're like, are you kidding me? They pride themselves on that in New Hampshire, live free or die country. Believe me. I mean, it's getting a little blue lately, although. I want quick shout out to my cousin. He just won mayor of Portsmouth, New Hampshire again last night. He is a Dem, but I forgive him. He's actually a practical Dem, so they do exist in New Hampshire, that is. Anyway, so congratulations to Declan McEachran. That's great news in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. But let me go here to a woman that I saw on TikTok today. She came out with this little PSA announcement. She said, hey, if you're thinking of moving to one of these red states, like a Florida, maybe think again. Or if you're going to come here, don't vote for the policies that made you leave your blue state to begin with. Watch.
This is a PSA from all of us in red states. If you are moving out of a blue state to a red one, do not come here and vote the very that drove you out. If you are leaving a blue state because the cost of living is too high, because quality of life, because it's now too dangerous, have some self-awareness and recognition that you are moving to a red state and do not vote the exact thing that drove you out of the blue state. Please, we beg you. And yes, I am talking to you, New York, who is about to run out of New York City because of Mamdani.
I think she says it better than me. I'm going with Mamdani, but it's maybe Mamdani. Is this like a Kamala thing? Anyway, I don't really care. We're just going to go with comrade, okay? So the comrade's in charge at New York City, and basically everybody's going to leave. They are hightailing it out of New York City as fast as they can, and she's right. You know what? If you're going to go to one of those red states, don't bring all your blue nonsense with you. Please. Listen, I'll tell you, this is all one big wake-up call. It's a wake-up call because we got to actually get serious as a party in terms of what we are thinking coming up on midterms. And I say that because you look at what Zohran Mamdani is saying about how they're going to prevent any new Trumps from coming along. And I'm like, wait, what are you going to do? Get rid of the First Amendment? I mean, I've been through it. I lived through it, okay? And that cancel culture was massive. And Biden was working behind the scenes, and you've heard what Mark Zuckerberg has come out and said and the pressure that they were under, et cetera. That can't happen again. And it worries me because if we do not have the House and the Senate, then we may not be able to expose all the things that need to get exposed. I know that the time is ticking, and we're all sort of like, come on, Pam Bondi, do your job, get going. But it's hard. They're methodical. My friend Dan's over there with Cash at FBI, and if you talk to him, he's like, look, and he's a very sort of methodical person. He's like, we have to do this the right way, and you can't rush it. So when I look at a chart like the one I'm going to show you, and don't get too scared. I mean, hey, we still got time, but I just want to be a realist here, because I don't want this to happen. But take a look at what Polymarket was showing. I love Polymarket because they have a really good sort of sense of what's really happening in real time. It's a kind of a betting site, if you would, a betting market. You can't bet on it if you're in the US, but just look at this and watch what's been happening. So this is, basically over the course of the last couple of months, and then look at that divergence that you see. Which party is going to win in 2026? And you see it August, September, October, and then this event with Mamdani, and you see now the 31% for the Republican Party and over a better than 70% chance for the Democrat Party. Now, I'm not saying that's set in stone. We can change that. We need to change that. But this is the wake-up call, I think, ladies and gentlemen, that we really, really, really need, because if the House is taken over, and don't forget, look what happened with Prop 50. I mean, they're going to pick up 5 seats in California, which is why it makes Texas so much more important. This is a very critical time, because you don't want this idiot, comrade, out there taking away your rights. And when I'm using him symbolically, because it's not just him, obviously. If they get back in charge, it's going to be a very difficult scenario for any American that doesn't agree with them. We saw it already.
And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one.
The next one. They do not want any diversity of thought. And if you are associated with the MAGA movement, if you are so associated with the GOP, then you are somehow toxic in their eyes and cancelable. And that's a really scary proposition, and it's not who we are. I mean, look at what they did, right? Look at what they did. You know what they did. I mean, go back to the Obama and Biden administration and all the cancel culture that was going on. So bad that they actually even were canceling people's bank accounts. In all seriousness, they had the regulators in there saying, okay, well, let's look at this person. Let's look at this person. We don't really like this person. Oh, that person's a MAGA person. Eric Trump told me he had 200 accounts canceled in one night. He got a call and they said they were canceling. He had like 200 accounts, his business accounts, etc. But they tried to shut everyone off, and it's pretty darn scary. So I think that we need to pay attention to this wake-up call. I mean, it's a politically motivated movement where they figure if we can just cut you off financially, it's done. Then we can ruin you. We can shut you out from social media, from speech, and of course from making a living. And so it's very politically motivated. They got all these regulators to go in there and put all this pressure on the banks, and it's not right. Like, the banks shouldn't have to kowtow to the regulators. Thank you very much. And I'm thrilled that President Trump signed an executive order saying we need to take some decisive action to stop this. The order calls out regulators specifically, says enough. You abused your power. This is like Elizabeth Warren on steroids, and it makes clear. But by the way, Janet Yellen, too, remember when she wanted to get into everybody's accounts? She's like, oh, we're going to find people who are evading taxes, all those billionaires. And she wanted access to anybody who had $600 worth of transactions in their bank account. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're going to find your billionaires like scrambling for nickels and dimes in the sofa cushions with people who have $600 in their account? What was that about? Oh, you know what it was about. I know what it was about. Anyway, thankfully, President Trump is taking action, but it's going to require Congress to act. And that's why this is really important. And I am proud to partner here with the wonderful group, Americans for Free Markets. Go to freemarkets.org to learn more and thank President Trump. Thank him for standing up for our freedoms and urging Congress to follow his lead. Together, they can establish a national fair access standard to prevent services from being denied based on political, social, or religious views. It's going to bring clarity. It's going to bring consistency. Long overdue, right? Accountability to financial regulators and the regulation there. So to protect the financial future of every single American, we need Congress to build on President Trump's leadership here. We need Congress to update these outdated laws and to codify his executive order. So go check it out. Americans for Free Markets is calling on Congress to ensure the abuse of power never happens again. I mean, we got a lot to worry about right now. Those numbers I just showed you. So do your part. Go to freemarkets.org today, freemarkets.org. I mean, a lot of stuff happened and a lot of stuff could still happen. And it's a concerning thing. By the way, speaking of markets, don't forget to check out my research at 76 Research. Use code word dollar. You get it for $1 a month. That's my newsletter. We have another piece coming out today. Kind of like it's a look at the Mamdani trade, if you would. So make sure you sign up. Use code word dollar, 76research.com. I'll tell you, James Comey was one of the worst, right? When we think about all the bad stuff that happened, and there was plenty of it, you think about what Comey did, and it was outrageous. I just want to, reiterate that. But the good news is we have some of the information now being revealed thanks to Lindsey Halligan's office. This is a really important story, and it's getting kind of overlooked in light of all the other stuff that's been going on. I want to get to that, guys, because I think that you got to understand that Comey's notes, those personal notes, are seemingly incriminating him in a way that, I don't think maybe he did anticipate that this was going to happen. Did you see this one? I know it's hard to read, but it's on FBI stationery. Oh, look at that. It has his title, Director of the FBI. And you're looking at these scribbles. This is exhibit number 13. And well, fortunately, there's somebody who's really good at interpreting handwriting. And they put a piece out on Twitter saying, basically, what this all says is undermine HRC, confidence in the system. HRC plans to hit Trump, HRC health. Kerry's going to go after Trump finance, debts to Moscow. Like, he didn't even have any debt. I mean, his banker was Deutsche Bank. That would be Germany. He didn't have any relationship with Moscow. I mean, the whole thing was made up. And they were trying to contact journalists to say, oh, you know what? Let's make sure that we get out the word. I mean, it's really, truly, absolutely unbelievable what went down. They were talking about how they could get all this news out. And by the way, they did. Look at this one. You get some emails. This is to David Charles Richmond, and this is from Reinhold Niebuhr, 7. Reinhold Niebuhr, nice little German name that James Comey decided to go by. And they're talking about the New York op-ed page, and whether or not they need him to write something. Oh, because of course you can just place it in the New York op-ed page, right? Because we get all our friends. Maybe that's all that global USAID money. I don't know, but they got lots of friends in the New York Times. They can put anything where they want to put it. And he's saying, hey, this law professor, do you need me to do anything? He was, by the way, on the payroll of the FBI, Comey's friend. And then Comey, a.k.a. Reinhold Niebuhr, says, no need. At this point, it would be shouting into the wind. Someday they will figure it out. And as Jack and so-and-so point out, my decision will be one President-elect Clinton will be grateful for, although that wasn't why I did it. Okay. So there's some stuff going on. There's all these, by the way, texts that they found where James Comey, after he said, oh no, I would never tell anybody to leak to the press, despite the fact that, he admitted at some point that, yes, indeed, he did ask his friend from Columbia University to plant a story in the New York Times because he wanted to make sure he got a special prosecutor involved in the Russia thing, which everybody knew was fake. Go back to the meeting, and we've been through all this before. I don't want to keep repeating myself over and over again. Hopefully you've been watching this show a lot and you know the whole drill, but Tulsi has revealed all of this. They had a meeting after, this was after Trump won in December of 2015 in the Obama Oval Office. They got everybody together and they decided to change the tune. So they went from, Russia did not steal the election, to all of a sudden Russia stole it, and he's an illegitimate president. And so they had to put all this into place. And so there's all these text messages that were going back and forth between, what was his name? I got to go back to that German name. What was that again, guys? Reinhold Niebuhr. I mean, if you're going to pick a name, right? And anyway, so Reinhold is talking to his friend Daniel Richmond, a.k.a. Michael Garcia. I guess he went with kind of a more normal name. And they're planning this whole thing out. And they've got all these records. And this is all courtesy of Lindsey Halligan and the U.S. Attorney's Office there in Virginia. It's all coming out. And he's saying, she can't prosecute me because she's a beauty queen. No, he didn't really say that, but that's what like the Daily Beast and some of these liberal publications are actually saying. Don't pick us on us beauty queens, by the way. You're looking at Miss New Hampshire from a long time ago. But anyway, Lindsey Halligan is like steamrolling in there, and she doesn't have the proper certification or the proper sign off or the kinds of things that you would normally have, right? From the U.S. Attorney's Office, you have to get like the Senate to weigh in on that and to confirm her. Well, they haven't confirmed her, but that doesn't mean she can't do things. And now Pam's talking about, I'll rubber stamp it all because you guys aren't going to play that game. That's what they're just trying to play technicalities here. It doesn't change the fact that we get all these text messages. Yes, courtesy of Lindsey. Exhibit 10, if you would. And this is the same guy who told us he didn't do any of this stuff, remember?
Called tape.
Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No. I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
And there we have it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry. There's a little too much there to be able to just sweep this one under the rug. And so I think that Comey's indictment is a big deal, and it probably will go to trial. And you could probably anticipate that Brennan might be in the works. And I'm still hearing Adam Schiff's name. We know Bolton has also been indicted. I mean, this is a big deal, guys. And of course, Letitia James. So it is... It's not going to end. It's not going to end anytime soon. I want to give a quick shout out right now, just if you would bear with me, because I had a really, really interesting discussion with someone from AARP just yesterday afternoon, and I'm actually going to post the entire interview on my page. But did you know that it is actually Caregivers Awareness Month? I mean, we're talking about Florida and stuff. And, a lot of people have loved ones that they're trying to take care of, and it's hard. It's a burden. I'm lucky. My parents are still in really, really good health, but I think I'm in the minority. A lot of people really, really struggle with this. And I was really struck by what AARP was saying, and I'm glad to partner with them on this because this is an important issue. They're talking about tax cuts. I never been a tax cut I didn't like. And tax cuts for people that have to take care of their loved ones. I want to play this for you because it's important. You get the Mamdanis of the world out there saying how they're going to tax everybody more. And this organization is saying, hey, let's come up with some new and innovative ways to help by lowering the tax burden and maybe letting people contribute more to HSA accounts. I thought it was a good idea.
Something that's prevalent across all demographic parts of society. Everybody has to do it at some point in their life. And at the end of the day, they just need help with time, money, and resources. That's the bottom line. They're trying to take care of their loved ones to make sure that they can go to doctor's appointments, they have the meals they need, they can help them with their medications and things of that nature. And so anything we can practically do to provide them with that support is greatly appreciated by anybody who's ever become a caregiver.
In terms of policy itself, again, I go back to, some of the things that the president said on the campaign trail really showed that he's clued in. He's a very practical guy, no matter what they want to say. He's a very practical guy. And I think he knows people are up against this. What are some of the things that we can be doing, should be doing to try and ease this burden on people?
Well, we applaud President Trump because he did come out during the campaign and he recognized that caregivers need help. And he actually talked about it on the campaign trail. And since coming back into office, he has pushed for a couple of things. One in particular is a caregiving tax credit, which would be a tax credit for working caregivers up to $5,000 to help alleviate some of the financial strain that they face on a regular basis. As I said earlier, on average, caregivers spend $7,200 a year out of their own pocket to take care of their loved ones. So,
and those are after-tax dollars.
That's right. So this is a great example of something that practically can help folks. And the other thing that we're encouraging folks to push, which he has supported, is allowing HSAs or health savings accounts to be used for folks when it comes to caring for their parents or parents-in-law, certain expenses associated with their medical care as well. So those are two practical examples of what could be done to help caregivers on a regular basis.
It's sort of amazing to me, like, you know, it's sort of amazing. Like, we're talking about this in the here and now because it feels like kind of an obvious problem, doesn't it? Right, but anyway, you can learn more at AARP, and I'm going to put up the entire interview. They get a lot of good ideas on ways to try and deal with this, but I thought it was kind of an important issue, and you know, it may feel out of left field, but when you think about what Mamdani is trying to do, it's all about, you know, there's a carrot and stick thing, right? And Art Laffer understood this so beautifully, and Ronald Reagan understood this so beautifully. If you want to really juice the economy, the answer is not to tax everybody to death. Yeah, if you want to help people, and if you want to make social, political changes through the economy, there are ways to do that. And what better way than, like, you know, an HSA tax credit, or just a tax credit for people that have so many out-of-pocket expenses to take care of their loved ones. I really thought that was kind of neat. Again, get my newsletter there at 76 Research. I want to go right now. Lots more happening in this moment. The president speaking out on Mandani. So yes, it did get a little bit of attention, if you would, from the president of the United States. Mamdani winning New York, which is Donald Trump's home state. Don't forget, like, he takes this seriously. He loves New York. Although I do think he relocated to Texas in part because of taxes and Letitia. Anyway, here he is talking just moments ago about the New York City election. Here we go. Goodness gracious. Can we try it again? Here is, dun-dun-dun, I'm nervous now, the President of the United States speaking about, ladies and gentlemen, just exactly what went down there in New York City last night.
If you want to see what congressional Democrats wish to do to America, just look at the result of yesterday's election in New York, where their party installed a communist as the mayor of the largest city in the nation. Remember, I've said we will never have a socialist elected to any post in our country. I used to say that, and I was right. We skipped socialist and we put in a communist instead. That didn't work out too well. But as I've warned for many years, our opponents are hell-bent on turning America into a communist Cuba or socialist Venezuela, and you see what happened to those places.
See what happened to those places. I mean, I think Venezuela is probably the best example right now if you go around the world and you look at case studies, because it's close to home, and it actually, at one point, not too long ago, had the highest per capita income. It was like living the best out of any living standard in all of Latin America. And that's changed, right? It's dramatically changed. And it's because of Chavez, who came in the year 2000. I remember I was actually a young analyst at Goldman Sachs covering Venezuela, Argentina, Mexico, Brazil. And we were like, oh, you know, we were really worried about Lula, actually, because he was the union guy. We're like, maybe you can work with Chavez. Maybe not. Because you know what? These are the kinds of people that you actually can't. He believed exactly what Mamdani's father is all about. This colonialism, this Europeans' fault, all that nonsense. And that country very quickly deteriorated to the lowest standard. The poverty is out of control. It is a disaster. But the president also saying some good things about, hey, let's keep it up. He was at America's Business Forum today, and he's like, listen, as long as I am here, there's going to be no communism at all. Again, back to the president of the United States. Okay, I think the gremlins are just getting to me today. Let's see again. Drum roll.
After last night's results, the decision facing all Americans could not be more clear. We have a choice between communism and common sense. Does that make sense to you? Common sense. It's common sense or communism. And you know, you take a look back 1,000 years, it hasn't worked. If it worked, we'd be using it, I guess, but it hasn't worked. Our opponents are offering an economic nightmare. We're delivering an economic miracle. We have delivered in 9 months. This is the biggest investment of funds in a country in history by many times. That's good. They want higher spending for government and illegal aliens. We want bigger paychecks for American workers and American families, and that's what we're delivering. You see that? They stand for crime and chaos and corruption. We stand for law and order and justice. Also strong borders. Boy, do we have strong borders. They put America last. We put America first. We put America first. And as long as I'm in the White House, the United States is not going communist in any way, shape, or form. We'll stop it. We're going to stop it. Stop this nonsense. You know, I said, they were voting last night. You can have a communist or a thug. A communist, and they took the communist, you know. It's pretty amazing. We could have done a little better in terms of candidates.
I missed that. A communist or a thug. I guess he was referring to Cuomo. Whoa. I mean, and they went with the communist. I thought the communist was the thug, basically. But no. So, look, again, you know, this is an experiment for New York City. It will not go well. You have only to look at Hollande in France to see what happens when you just decide to tax people up the wazoo. Businesses will leave. Individuals will leave. They'll go to Florida. Hey, you know, where the sun's always shining and there's no tax. Or you're welcome to go to New Hampshire, where, again, 0% income tax, 0% sales tax. It's pretty good, right? Like, somehow we still manage to get by in that state. I don't live there anymore, but my family all does. And it's a pretty special place. So, and dare I forget, 0% income tax. So, you know, when you make money, hopefully, in your investments, you're not going to get sucked with more taxes. It is great to have you here. What a day. What a night. Like I told you, I woke up and I couldn't sleep. I thought, oh, this is really kind of lousy. But we knew it was coming. And I think it's a big wake-up call because we're going to have to get really, really serious about midterms. And we're going to have to be more devoted to the cause than ever before. I am here with you every step of the way. I take this very seriously. It is something I eat, sleep, and breathe, as I know so many of you do. Please make sure that you subscribe. I put in the top of the chat as well in the show notes my Spotify channel as well. Please help me out. We're like 14,000. Which is great because I was like 12,000 just a short time ago. So you guys are doing your part. Maybe if you can, go over there, like it, you know, subscribe to it. It's all free. I would appreciate it tremendously. And I will be back with you, as always, right here on the Trish Regan Show tomorrow. Thank you.